Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Unfortunately, we are still having a little bit of a difficulty, so you don't get to hear or see the graphic or even are hearing any of the music. Which I apologize if you are uh, on the channel tuning in on Twitch. I believe you will get that little bit of a professionalism in there. So apologize for that. Anyway, welcome creative community and kind folks again to the channel RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and this show is live on, at least the audio is, on our Discord server, and you can also tune in on Twitch and YouTube as well. So we're doing a little bit of a series here. Popping in and out of the series known as Cutting Class. So we're going to take the Druid this time. We're kind of going alphabetical, and I'm going to arrange some time. We did skip the Barbarian, but I thought we would just talk about it all week long. And each day, if you're unfamiliar with the channel, we do have a different theme, like Monster Monday, Trope Tuesday, World Building Wednesday, etc. And so today we're going to take a look at, some of the tropes and things in Druids. Some of the common tropes that we see in Druids anyway. Maybe even take a look at some of the circles of the Druid and start to break them apart and see how they operate and that kind of thing. So I thought we'd just have some fun using this classic, of course, Dungeons & Dragons. And this channel is associated with tabletop role-playing games. So while we may hit upon some real-life incidences, and I always make references to television and movies and things, just be aware that this is a tabletop role-playing game channel. We really don't get political and or go into gossip and that kind of thing. So let's begin with our tropes. So one of the things, especially with the thumbnails that I've been using, there is this bit of a trope of the naturalist, the person who has an affinity for nature in some kind of manner, and tends to Druids tend to be associated with like woodland regions, maybe some plains or savannas, maybe some swamps or rainforests. But as we've seen in the creation of Druids, especially associated with 5th edition, I just remember there being a ton during the 3.XX a period of time. But Druids can be hyper-focused, I guess is the way to say it, can be focused in a particular realm of nature. And we've seen also that Druids, they can associate themselves with, how do we say, hey, Lord E. Fox. Druids can also be, they don't need to be absolute neutral, although they still tropishly are associated with the neutral alignment, because we tend to look at them as like, well, if it's natural, it is, although nature can be harsh and can be brutal, that Druids don't have much of a motivation beyond protecting nature, and that's far from the truth. Druids can be seen as very proactive in terms of what their capabilities are, what their motivations are, and like yesterday when we talked about Monster Monday, as adversaries, they can have allies with any number of pretty thematic creatures in the world, whether they are yeah, Rickard. Hey, what's going on there, man? It's been a long time no here. Yeah, Rickard says, don't forget about the Druid stoner trope. Yeah. Would you like me to grow you flowers? Like, nope. I want you to grow me some weed. Yeah. 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 Like, Lord Heathfox says, what about an evil druid that is an eco terrorist? Well, now here's the thing. Because of the tropes of druids being very neutral, sometimes we don't think or don't associate evil with a druid, but they can be, or at least even if they don't consider themselves evil, they could be performing or going down a path that causes lots of death and destruction. Because most people do not never consider themselves evil, although their actions for everybody else is like, yeah, you're doing there's a lot of death and destruction you're causing, and it depends on where that death and destruction comes from, right? They are very there's the stoner trope, yeah, from the Hobbit movies, yep. Thanks, Cam. Oh, okay, so um, also, but there's actually quite a number of really easy motivations to make druids the the bad guy, or at least the antagonists in your stories. More or less, it's like someone's come into the wilderness and done something wrong, whether it's cutting down the trees or some wizard or alchemist is dumping terrible chemicals, or someone opened a portal into their realm and such, and so they come out of the woodlands and they're all pissed off, and maybe they're friends with someone. So I thought we would maybe talk about, just because of the trope of druids, to give them a little bit more life, give them a little bit more motivation, especially when we're using them as antagonists, and even as PCs, instead of like, oh, I'm only sitting here in the woods doing nothing until not promoted, but like pushed into action, and maybe giving them a little bit more. Give them a little bit more three-dimensionality. Tesla Ranger says a common feature of druids is their dedication to the concept of nature as a whole rather than to specific nature deities, though there are exceptions, and to preserving the balance of nature, which may invoke true neutral or heroic neutral tendencies. However, excuse me, wow. Due to their reverence of nature and life and their opposition to greed and the wanton destruction of nature, druids generally tend to fall into the good side of good versus evil conflicts. Evil druids are a very small minority, but are certainly possible. A villainous druid might be infected by their natural instincts and be a wild, cruel, and indifferent character. They might be a kind of Knight Templar or evil Luddite who seeks to tear down the corrupting weakness and hedonism they see in civilization and reclaim the land for the wilds. They might even be a predatory social Darwinist. Yeah, and that part about the falling into good versus evil, I think the reason why is because um, the side effects of having druids around tends to benefit more people than it harms them, and so um, cultivating druids into being adversaries and antagonists feels to us sometimes like antithetical to them. But I still think that there are ways to do it. For example, there's the classic humanity building too much industry near the wilderness of whatever it is, or visitors have moved into an uncharted region of the world, whether they're islands or mountains or desert or something of that nature, and so the just the idea of the visitors coming in and trashing the place could spark the druids to like, okay, this is the last straw. There's been 15 visitors to my freaking island. All right, I'm gonna start open up a can of whoop ass and send waves of creatures and summon a kraken or something like that. Now, I think druids can fit into the natural order in the same way that like evil wizards or lich or mummy lords or whatever can fit in as well, where the druid, or maybe the druidic circle, is in league with, or maybe even one-shotting, like using their influence to summon a lot of creatures or something, or even living elementals or plant creatures or something, to say, hey, listen, I've been leaving you alone for quite a while, but you need to. I don't ask a lot of favors, but this time I think we need to destroy the world or whatnot. So yeah. And Lordy Fox like, hey, DBJ, was wondering if I could get into one of your campaigns one day. I would like to get into one of my campaigns one of these days. I do see time opening up on a horizon, but I will make an announcement about that, so that you guys are the first. So the answer is yes, when I've got some time. Rickard's like, been sleeping during my lunches of late, but hopefully we'll be back to regular squirrely another week or two. Always appreciate the squirrely squirrel. Okay, so anyway, the another thing that could be possible with druids as enemies and adversaries, and kind of breaking the trope, is that and the evil druid may have caused something that is causing a side effect far beyond their intentions. So, for example, let's go with something simple, like a great army has been destroying a woodland area, and a big pissed off druid in their circles pissed off, so they summon their allies, whether there's like fey creatures or treants or storms or whatever, even plagues or whatever, to sweep over an area. And then once they wipe out their enemies, they leave, but the residual effects are still there, right? Like it's the idea of the uncontrolled sorcerer, where they tap into a power, they get something done, they're like, well, I'm done, I'm out of here, and then now there's like 3 generations later of like plague or something, or they summon a storm and they strike down their enemies, and then they go, well, let's go back into the woods, and there's nothing wrong with anything here, and then come to find out that the PCs come upon a destroyed city and there's refugees and whatnot, and they may not care about the outside influences. But also, druids really make a great, they make a combination of like a quest giver slash DMPC. We kind of stay away from DMPCs, but they make great guides as well. Like, for example, someone is looking for like a herbal concoction, or a hidden grove, or the lady in the lake, or something out in the wilderness, the wild, an uncharted region. PCs need to get there. They can hire like a ranger type of person or a scout, but instead maybe they befriend someone that's like an old hermit or something that's been living out in the woods, and this person in the woods is like, looks you up and down, yeah, you seem like good people, and then wants to lead you along, and then that individual could educate the players. Now the problem I can see already happening is like, do you make them do you insist on having them tag along with the PCs as like a DMPC, that basically a Mary Sue creature or a character that follows along with the PCs, never gets in trouble, never gets hurt or whatever? Or are they like a sage that sits in the background kind of explaining the setting in the world, which is often why DMs insert a character like that. It's like, hey, I've got my campaign setting, and I know you're not going to read my 12 pages of my setting, so here's a character who's going to explain some things along the way. Now, Andreas Martin says, I made an ever reincarnating druid villain who used his reincarnations to subtly manipulate a kingdom to avenge the destruction of his race. Winged elves. It's a druid archetype from Pathfinder. Ooh, yeah, and for some reason, I don't hear people talking about too many archetypes from Pathfinder. It's kind of weird. Ricker says, one of the best villains I've had the pleasure to play with played a true neutral druid that tried to play all sides so that no side ever had an advantage, so that the balance never was disrupted. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that is in the Forgotten Realms. I believe it's Mordenkainen, who is the true neutral wizard who's keeping the blood war between the fiends, the devils and demons going, and the celestials, so that neither side gets an upper hand. But that's actually a really good, like, true neutral. Was it in Greyhawk? Yeah. That's a really good proactive neutral stance to take of a person who is like, I'm not interested in good or evil. I'm interested in keeping the balance so that neither side, because if either side took over, it would be their destruction, at least from their point of view, right? Whether they were an oracle or they got some kind of vision, or it's a druidic circle. It's a circle where they've seen this happen before, or even some ancestors of the druids are like, they're at it again, and like, all right, well, we just need to keep these people away from this particular realm or something. I also think sometimes we consider druids not to be concerned about humanity, but I think there's a case to be made. I'm sure this works very well with a more tribalistic style of gaming, but druids looking out for humanity isn't really a bad thing if there's great powers from beyond, especially if there's portals opening from there's otherworldly entities. Maybe there's a Cthulhuid-like beings from the outer realms of space and time, or something like that, right? Where plagues and the four horsemen style of an apocalypse is coming upon the world, and the druids are trying to protect the last remnants of humanity. So while we like to have druids confront humanity a lot, like, oh, you're building roads and castles and aqueducts, this sucks, I'm going to take you down. That's a true trope. But another trope could be just druids are like, listen, I see what humanity is doing out there, but we just want to stay in the woods and just mind our business. But for right now, I think you need to follow our lead and protect ourselves, right? Cameron says the wrong druid in the wrong place could make a flash flood. It could be disastrous for everyone involved, or well planned to take out a swath of enemies. And that is the case, right? Like if you want to turn a druid from an enemy into an antagonist, the difference of an adversary rather than an antagonist. The difference between an antagonist would be just like, okay, we're going up against the druid, whereas an adversary of sorts, the druid might be on your side, but again, the side effects might be terrible, right? Like if the druid causes a flood that wipes out a harvest, but the druid is like, well, we needed the flood to kill our enemies. It's like, yeah, thanks for helping us, but wow, you could have talked to us first. Not that they have to pay attention to anyone, but yeah. Yesterday I brought up the idea of a druid being in league with like a noble family of sorts, basically like a zoo tender, or a person who protects protected land who protects a protected part of the land in service to like a noble family or a bloodline or something. Or much like Black Panther in Wakanda, maybe there are different tribes or factions or something. The druids just happen to be a particular faction that has equal power within a governmental scope. Like, oh, there's the Druidic faction. Oh, there's the clerical faction, and there's the warrior faction, and maybe there's a Druidic faction. It's like, oh, this part of the land, we've always had a treaty where you guys don't go into it. We just happen to live there. And by the way, we also are part of the government. That we're actively part of it. That could be a possibility as well. And Rickard says, yeah, but on a small scale, where Mordenkainen focuses on more cosmic entities, this druid was focusing on factions and nations. And this is okay. So you segue into something that I was thinking about when it comes to tropes and druids. Imagine ourselves taking druids and layering them in the concept of other types of stories. So for example, let's talk about espionage and spies. Now, druids, when players play druids, they make really good espionage and spy type characters, especially if you don't have a rogue in the group, because druids that have like shape changing or wild shape or anything of that nature allows them to become small, pretty much, 1/8 or 1/4 CR creatures and stuff like that. Well, tired, need sleep. Well, good. Good. Well, thank you for making this a good morning. Although, is it good morning over there? Is it like 10, 11 o'clock, whatever? But thank you for popping in there, tired and needing sleep. Appreciate you being here. Now, the druids that can change into small things like chipmunks or weasels or bats or small birds or field mice or something like that make excellent infiltrators. And I think druids doing that to disrupt like nations and factions and actually being in league with, say, doppelgangers and lycanthropes or something, I think makes a lot of sense. Or at least layering druidic abilities on top of some of these other creatures, even like doppelgangers and lycanthropes, and my brain's not going to some, even Oni or Ogre Magi have shape-changing abilities and such. Layering, like, or at least having hags are another thing that where druids are kind of have a relationship with them, or at least layering their capabilities on top of them, I think makes a great idea to put them into it like an espionage kind of thing, especially if the cities are an example would be okay, I'm going to bring up a movie because I have to. Apocalypto, the idea of outsiders discovering a new world, but the people who, it's the idea of like, United States wasn't, the Americas weren't discovered. They were already here. They were just people that came from another place and decided to plant their flag. I could imagine there being a lot of druids pissed off when people start arriving and start trying to insert their own social behaviors when the druids are like, yeah, no. Yeah. Lord Hefox. Lord Hefox says an NPC is a druid and he's the guardian of the forest. Yeah, that's a very common trope. But to flip that around, it could be like a druid infiltrating inserting itself into the local community, trying to find people, the PCs as well, to maybe help them alleviate a problem that's in their wilderness or their woodland area or something like that, which could be an issue. Also, what about druids having conflicts with each other, especially if they are in different groves, or their druidic circles start intermingling a little bit too much, crossing over, and they maybe need plausible deniability with the PCs, like, hey, I'm a druid from the desert and there's a druid from the jungle, and for some reason we have a border with each other. I don't know, pulling out of my ass. And they need they're beseeching the characters to maybe try to stop a conflict or to pick a side in a conflict, and the PCs are like, this is just nature. What should I be doing about this? Ricker says war tends to not be good for nature. Lots of wood and metals are needed to keep the war machine going. Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, I said that yesterday. I mean, when the war machine gets going, soldiers and the whole war economy destroys lots of territory. We know of and are still living in areas where the war effort has really ravaged the landscape itself. Anything from to keep a war footing going, you need lots of wood, lots of metal, lots of raw resources, whether it's like certain types of minerals or foods and blankets and linen and cotton and all that kind of stuff. Like, you need an industry going, and it can be pretty destructive, quite destructive, I think. Tired Needs Sleep says druids where one favors predators and one favors herbivores. Ooh, there's a conflict right there, right? Druids running with like predator packs of what's something common, felines and lupines, right? Like wolves and tigers and cheetahs and things of that nature. That's what my mind was going to with the idea of using like lycanthropes, having a relationship with lycanthropes. Yeah. Yep. Tired Needs Sleep says, quote, "Don't hurt my herd. I will hunt your herd. We need to eat," kind of thing. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And again, like a powerful wizard or lich, maybe the druids aren't exposed yet. Like, for example, if you really want to ramp up the power of the druid, you guys know I'm a big person that embraces the third pillar of exploration, and you could set the PCs on a path where just start flipping through the book for like spells like ice storm, gust of wind, I don't know. Anyway, earthquake. Like, take a look at a bunch of wizard or druidic like spells, call lightning and all that kind of stuff, and then turn those into environmental hazards. And in the beginning, just real subtle. People complaining about storms and damage to the environment and stuff, and the PCs have to go through. Just use our real world experiences: hurricanes, tornadoes, tsunamis, earthquakes, forest fires, flash floods, and whatnot. And then as the PCs get closer, as they start venturing closer into your realm, i.e. the open air dungeon, where instead of having walls and you're deep down in the ground, the PCs are going from location to location like a hex crawl. Although I don't, there's, in my head, there's no difference between the two. But as the PCs get closer, things get worse, and then come to find out that a druid has been either creating it, or there's a side effect of a battle between, I don't know, 2 or more druidic circles or something, or maybe there's druids trying to hold back unrestrained elemental beings, or like Tired Needs Sleep brought up, maybe there is a very predatory group of druids that represent predators, that they're like, no, we're top of the food chain. And oh, by the way, yeah, that claw, that's my middle finger. Like they very well could be living in and breeding and being part of, like, let's take what's a good predator? Jackals, or like hyenas or something, vultures or whatever, like they representing that part of the druidic circle of life. Now, there are various druidic circles. For example, there's Rob and Alex and I are part of Critically Hit Publishing, and Rob brought up to me about a player in one of his games that's playing a Circle of the Mushroom Druid, and I think this is a little bit older. This is back in 2017, maybe. I don't know. But a Druid of the Mushrooms. There's also in the UA the Unearthed Arcana, which this isn't official, but there's also, of course, there's a Druid of the Land. What's the actual name of it? Circle of the Land. I'm sorry, Circle of the Land, and Circle of the Stars is something new, as well as the Circle of Wildfire. And so these mind you, there's you could do a search and type in Druidic circles, but I really appreciate the circle of druids that are focused on their region or their place in the cycle of life, because like when you think of mushrooms, or you start thinking of a circle of some kind of like reincarnation, or the wildfire, the burning of harvest to allow new growth to come in, that cycle does, when it intersects with humanity, it does seem to feel a little bit destructive and harmful. And, while we know here in the States, in the West Coast of the States, there's always, every 2 years, we have like major wildfires, and not that they don't happen around the world, but the natural cycle of those wildfires is that it's supposed to burn out the landscape, and then that carbon and those nutrients go into the soil to allow the roots to get that to grow yet even thicker. And we as humanity are the ones that are causing the wildfires to even grow greater, because the less roots, there's less foliage, we are living in spaces where those fires happen. Now, I'm not against people living there. I'm just saying that our place in nature, we tend to think we have a lot of hubris when it comes to nature. You guys know that. Cameron says I'm sorry, Lord Hefox says a kingdom of nature, and the king is a druid. Also, flipping the script on it, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with having a campaign where every character is tribally themed, and the I'll say the antagonists are the people creating the industry, right? Where the PCs are, I hate to make this as a blanket statement, but basically the PCs are all living off the land, and you just reskin every character class and whatnot, where they're all living off the land. But the danger is that there are maybe people coming from other worlds. We even did this before. This is in the archives, where we talked about creating a world based around every character class, and the Ranger and Druid character classes. Well, Ranger not so much, but the Druid character class was like, oh, maybe people are just living in the woods, in the wilderness, living, being hunting gatherers and living their normal lives, and then every other character class starts coming over, like clerics as a religious people start coming over into a land that's pristine, and then fighters are more like have a war footing, and they're coming over and whatnot. So I think that would be a really good idea as well. Like maybe the Druids are the heroes in this setting. Cameron says a desert Druid who wants to expand their desert versus a forest Druid who wants to expand their forest, fighting over plains area with plains Druids in between. I love that. I love that idea because listen, all of them in their own way are going to feel like, yeah, I'm right. If the desert Druids and the desert starts expanding, and we've seen that happen in our real world, why wouldn't they be pissed off when the forest or the jungle or whatever the case may be, or even the plains starts happening? Also, there might be a cycle of change in the world, and the different Druidic circles represent the shifting of the guard. But they might not like to do it. It's like, for example, when winter comes, maybe there are Arctic/wintry aligned Druids that come down from the Arctic north or something, and they're like, "Oh, time for us to take over." in the spring and fall, or summer and fall Druidic circle that understands they have to pass the rod over to the next group is like, pissed off, like, you've come down early from the mountains. Like, sure we have, but you've seen the flow of nature or the changes in the seasons and whatnot, and we're here to stay. So the shifting of the guard might be a thing. Heck, there might even be a winter, spring, summer, fall type of governmentally arranged alignment with these various Druids, or an entire. We'll do this with world building, because I thought about this for world building Wednesday. Is that maybe there are some stationary stationary Druid circles. Like, we live on the coast, we stay on the coast, and another group is like, we live in a desert, and that's where we stay, and we live in a forest. And then there might be these smaller enclaves that are nomadic, right? Hey, we follow the birds and the avians, and maybe some of us shape change, others travel across the ground, but maybe we just travel. Maybe there's others that are much like the idea of like the predator and prey with the herd. Maybe there's some that travel with the herd and are trying to protect the herd from various predators, and unfortunately, they travel with the herd. They don't tell the herd what to do. The herd goes in its own direction. And so humanity trying to kill off the herd, the coming winter by the Druidic winter circle, it might be harming the herd or something. And I think that'd be kind of cool to have these different enclaves, like like spawning salmon. Maybe there's aquatic Druids that come back upstream to allow the salmon to spawn, and then maybe they spawn themselves. Maybe they have a little bit of a mating season get together or something in their aquatic nature or something. Which brings up something else, which we're going to talk about in third pillar of exploration Thursday, about Druids in regions where it's so harsh that the PCs have a hard time getting to them, like being aquatic or super high elevations, or deep in the uncharted and unmodified subterranean realms and things of that nature. So we'll talk about that. Lord Hefox says a science fantasy campaign where there's an empire of Druids that has a type of biowizardry technology that's made of plants and vines. I'm thinking you think of vines, flowers, and briars, like briar patches. Oh, hells yes. Hells yes. Um, I the idea of like someone's limb being cut off and then being replaced with like a wooden tangled vines and leaves and stuff like that. I think that's awesome. Um, I would even hell, I would just let a player make a character like that. Like, why wouldn't I? Um, as a matter of fact, every other character class, the ranger most specifically, but every other character class kind of fits into the druidic ideal, right? I mean, barbarians and fighters and rangers would absolutely be aligned with uh, I was going to say woodland, but um, a type of wilderness style, what no matter where it is, right? Cameron says that would make a sweet peg leg. Yeah, all tangled vines and tree limbs and stuff like that. Yeah, hell yeah. I don't. I just think that that would just be a cool idea. Even a person who I would even let a player like have. There are many spell effects and character traits that would maybe uh, represent bark or plants or something like it. I don't. My character has leather armor, but it's not really leather armor. It's basically leaves and woodland things that cover my skin, and that's how I wear my armor or something. And the rules haven't changed, but that's how I make it look. And I'd be like, that's actually pretty cool. That's actually really cool. Um, Tesla puts in the okay. I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of this. Vog, the Yuzvog, children of the Yan Yuzan, also called the Chosen Race, known to the Chiss and Pharaohs as the Far Outsiders. I've never heard of this, and sometimes incorrectly abbreviated to Vong. Is this for Star Wars? Hmm, I've never heard of them. I've never heard of the Vong or the incorrectly abbreviated Vong. I've never heard of them, but it is kind of cool. Also, we in terms of like hyper focusing our druids, um, even in a woodland area, maybe there's some druids that are more associated with like pollen, flower. Um, I'll say like the maybe bees and honey and swarms of insects versus say uh, trees and bushes and things like that. Um, maybe there are druids more associated with the underworld, or at least uh, I've got to hold on. Where's my clicky pen so I can uh, put down a night girl in terms of getting to class late. Good to see you there. You and all of you other night girls are always welcome. Rickard says the Briar King is coming. The villager. Oh, excuse me. The Briar King is coming, the villager whispers in a hushed tone. The dark forest keeps moving ever closer. Soon we'll have to leave our homes if nothing is done. Oh, hells yes. Hells yeah. Um, yeah. Put your hand down there, night girl. I'm just being sarcastic. But anyway, yes, the idea of the dark woods creeping closer to humanity, or even the when someone the lost child gets lost in the dark woods, the only person we can talk to is the old druid that lives out there in the dark woods, and the old druid's all pissed off and like, why do you keep coming to me, you and you people, you stay in your farms, I'll stay in the woods, and then of course attitude happens, and then bad things start to come out of there. Now we often assume that the druid has complete control and domination of their realm, but let's talk about desert druids, right? Maybe there are sandstorms where the druids can't stop the sandstorms at all. They're just natural. They come along, but they're able to either find safe havens, or to disrupt the sandstorms, or the people who are nomadic that walk through the deserts need the druids to protect them when the sandstorms sweep by. And maybe the sandstorms are far more arcane than we think of. So like giant scorpions and elemental sandstorms, blowing winds and things like that. Um, I don't have great ideas everybody else makes me look far more brilliant. So you were very right. Tired, needing sleep. From there in the UK, that's all the show is really. We take a thing. We are here for you to steal an idea, essentially. So yeah. But the idea that druids may not be as dominant as we give them credit for. So instead, what they may be doing is just basically making these like oases of safety in every place, like on islands and mountains and subterranean and jungles. And when people leave those regions, that's where all the danger happens. But when you come back, it's like, what did you bring back for us so that we can continue to create these safe havens scattered throughout the world? Darn it, I'm flowing into world building, but that may be the case. Ricker's like, attitude happens, bad things happen from there. Did Mr. T become a druid all of a sudden? B.A. Drudakis? Drudakis? I pity the fool that comes in my dark woods. Although, I could see that happening, you know? Yeah, Cam, you're right. Yeah, think of this show as a community adventure farm. Yep. Pick a couple eggs, bring a basket along, and have yourself a good old time. Yeehaw! So anyway, guys, I do have to go off to work. The show has been getting shorter. Yes, it is a friendly community. No thanks to myself. No. We're honestly, we are. We're just a bunch of creative people. Sometimes our brains get stuck. I often make the comment that I love to back myself into a creative corner. The idea of the show is dedicated to all of us that are like, where it's like, I don't have an idea and there's a game coming up. What the hell am I going to do? Or I want to make a character and I don't know how to make this character special or something. That's all the show really is. And for us to, sometimes it's just hearing something and it sparks an idea. So yeah, that's what it is. Oh, by the way, please like, share, subscribe, spread the word of the channel to others you know. Tell people who you hate about the channel, if that's your preference. By the way, I am a contributing writer to Critical Hit Publishing. The ninth book is out, Wetlands, and part of the cinematic environs. 2 more to go, at least that's how I'm figuring it out. Subterranean and Rainforest will be the last 2, and then that's when we're going to do the compendium where we bring all the environmental stuff together into one big thick book, and I can't wait for that. So the Subterranean book is going to be pretty daunting, considering that it's like subterranean realm mixed with nearly every other environment from the surface down in the subterranean realm. So yeah, a lot of that. I'm having fun with playing with aquifers, if you understand what aquifers are in the subterranean realm. But anyway, Ricker's like, oh man, I pity the fool who chopped down those trees. Actually, Mr. T would make a great druid, right? Who's to say druids can't beat ass and chew gum, and I'm all out of ass. Wait, huh? Night Girls, Night Girl says, I'm so impatient for the compendium. Well, thank you, I think. Yeah, I thank you very much. Yeah, I can't wait either. I want to finish it. I want to get it done, but I want to do it right. So yeah, the Wetlands book, I had a lot of fun. Myself and Alex and Rob had a lot of fun digging up diseases and parasites and kind of making them gamifiable. So that was really cool. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's coming. It'll be here. So yeah. Wish me luck. Oh, I'm also writing for N World, a project that they have. It's going to be like a year in the making, and I'm also writing for Onyx Path Publishing right now. So. Yeah, absolutely. But of course, I need you guys to help me out with that sometimes, and doing the show kind of it's my morning coffee. Gets me going. Yeah, dude. Yeah, Rickard. Yeah. I got hired by them for some project. It's not just me. It's me plus like a dozen other people but I'm going to be a contributing writer, doing my. I've been, you know, standing on my soapbox preaching about the environment. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. So yeah, so I'm brought on as a consultant for that kind of thing. Kind of cool. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. For some strange reason, I'm having strange conflict issues with starting the channel, but so yeah, yeah, dude, yeah. I'm kind of surprised that people are like reaching out to me, but at the same time, I'm happy about it. So I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. I'm going to appreciate it and try to do the best that I can. So guys, everybody have a great one. I've got to head off to work. So you guys have a great day. I will see you later. Bye. Here we go. Then stage 10, which